Hey guys, Akio Murasaki here. Today, with yet another quote-unquote grifting video. Today I want to talk a little bit about the political encroachment in VTuber spaces. As a fellow VTuber and a big VTuber fan, this is something that unfortunately has to be discussed again. In an ideal world, I would go back to playing gacha games, go back to talking about weep stuff, about light novels, which I will do eventually anyway. But I'd rather go to that. But unfortunately, there are some more pressing issues that need to be addressed way before that. Now, I'm going to be talking about VTubers, and there's going to be talk about VTuber communities in this video here, which I'm going to play and discuss briefly. But when VTuber communities are often mentioned in the West, what people really think about are indie VTubers, or the kind of very insular and very specific and sometimes weird English indie VTubing scene. And sometimes that also relates a little bit to kind of like the English corpus, like Niji Sanji, for instance, but not necessarily. Usually it's just kind of like really the English specific indie sphere. So that's when people talk about, VTuber community in the West, they don't mean Hololive, the big Hololive, the Indonesia Hololive, or Hololive JP, or even Hololive EN sometimes. They really just mean like the insular part of the EN, the indie EN, sometimes also Face Connect, but in general like smaller corpus. So that's the first thing. Now, the second thing, we're going to be talking about free people in this video. We have Anna Valens, who's the main actor, or actress here in this case, since she's trans. And I want to just straight up, I want to say this, I want to properly use people's pronouns out of respect, even though I don't necessarily think that person deserves all of that respect, but I still want to, a bit of a laurel leaf here from my side. But anyway, we're going to be talking about free people. The first one is Anna Valens, who has a very interesting history. She started as a journalist, originally not for Vice, for a different publication earlier, from media outlet, and they were writing all sorts of, I would rather say, sloppy articles, like gossip columns, basically, on all sorts of different topics. Not very, high degree investigative quote-unquote journalism, just regular gossip column writing. But she is more known for writing fan fiction about non-consensual acts between trans women and cis women, writing articles about different sexual fetishes, writing articles about having a butt plug on while playing a game with kids, and many such cases. And one of the more recent cases is the number of hit pieces against a VTuber agency called Valor, and also against another VTuber called Kirsche for calling the person a white supremacist, grifter, and whatnot, basically a Nazi trademark. And that span out, unfortunately, that went out of proportion completely, and is the main reason why people hate on Anna Valens right now. Now, the other two people is going to be Nyara, who is also a trans person, me being really surprised here, who I can only say is probably a very lost person who needed some sort of mental help in their life and didn't receive this, and now is in the place where they're at. Among all of the weird things Nyara says, one that really stands out is that she thinks that puberty induced via not puberty blockers, but like HRT, artificial hormones, is exactly the same as the natural puberty that people go through naturally. Yes, believe it or not, she really does hold that opinion, among many other rather controversial and devoid of reality things. And now the third person is Bint, who I can only classify as a smear merchant, and someone who I think the online sphere would be way better off, in the sense that they really need to take a break and they should just disappear, because they've been leading multiple smear campaigns, multiple cancellation campaigns, and are just like a compulsive liar and smear merchant when it comes to writing anything online. And they write a lot, at least used to write a lot, until the recent doxing case, unfortunately. But I was hoping that person would just go offline, log off, and disappear. Unfortunately, that did not happen. Now, going back to the topic, we're going to be talking about politics, which I like talking about, but I really hate talking about. It's one of the kind of love-hate relationships. We're going to be playing the video, and I'm going to explain exactly what the problem is with encroaching politics in VTuber spaces.
Okay, here's the thing. Nyara.
So that is Anna Valens, just for a little bit of context here.
I've talked to Nyara, I've talked to Bint about their political frameworks.
Okay, now this is a thing that's going to appear very often for this video. The way Anna Valens, Nyara, and Bint are looking at VTubing, they're not looking at it merely as entertainment. They're not looking to talk about topics they enjoy, topics they like. They're looking at it as a vehicle for propaganda, to basically spread a certain political opinion and convince people to their political positions. They're going to be talking about political leanings, about frameworks, and a lot of like really, really hardcore political stuff that you would typically hear from politicians or even from propagandists nowadays.
How they operate. And
so we're talking about the frameworks in which they operate. Just really pay attention to the language here.
I think Bint has always operated, and I think it's important to talk about Bint because I think it's inevitable they're going to come back. Like they love Twitter. They love Twitter.
Yeah, so Bint is exactly the smear merchant person I mentioned earlier. They post so often. Oh my god, it's like thousands of posts every single day. And all of them are incredibly hateful. There's very rarely anything that's kind of positive coming out of Bint. It's basically hating on every single person. It's being nasty, it's being mean, very mean-spirited in general.
They love Twitter. They're coming back. Like, it's inevitable. I think they're just taking a little breaky break.
And the breaky break is because they got doxxed. Yes, their actual identity got revealed, their real name got revealed, and that finally forced Bint to take some kind of a break and just go offline.
I think that's what's happening. And the thing is, right, I'm going to enter like a fucking boss unless I get fucking shot. Ah! Okay. The thing is, like, Nyara okay. It's hard to, I want to talk about Nyara, but I want to talk about Bint first because I think it's really important. I think Nyara and Bint both have a philosophy that it's really important to make allies in the V.
Okay, now here we have another keyword. Making allies. Making allies in the VTuber space.
VTubing world for lefty stuff.
For lefty stuff. So again, making allies for lefty stuff. We're not talking about finding people to honestly hang out with, to have fun with, to collaborate with. No, we're looking for political allies.
So they have created frameworks to talk about issues to make themselves palpable to centrists.
Palpable to centrists. I already told you what kind of stuff Anna Valens said. I find it incredibly unlikely that any of these three people would genuinely be able to be palpable to quote-unquote centrists. Their views are absolutely abhorrent. A lot of them are just so far removed from anything anyone reasonable can relate to that I don't see that happening in any way possible.
And to people that are like a little wishy-washy on liberal stuff. Basically, they want to reach the people who look at me and say, like, I don't know about this breeding farm thing, but, like, I do think Kirsha's bad.
I don't know. Okay. This is a very interesting scaling. So we have Kirsha, who very often talks about politics. She talks about DEI. She talks about a lot of, like, she like, her main thing, other than playing games, is reading political news. And I kind of like her coverage because she is not very aggressive about it. She's not very aggressive about her political views. She's not trying to convince anyone to anything. She's basically just like, oh, I'm reading these articles and this is what they say and I think they're crazy. So she's basically doing coverage. Like most of her videos that have to do with news, with politics, are kind of like coverage videos. So we're talking about this person, and this here, Anna Valens, labeled Kirsha a Nazi, a right-wing supremacist, a white supremacist, and a person who spreads the replacement theory, basically a Nazi trademark. Okay, so we are comparing someone who's being labeled a Nazi for literally just reading articles and talking about stuff that's happening in the world versus a person who legitimately made fan fiction recordings about breeding camps for women. I'm struggling a little bit to understand the kind of value judgment going on here, because to me these things are so far removed. One of them is kind of like a little bit neutral, and one of them is just absolutely despicable. I'm talking about Anna Valens here.
Like, that's what they're basically trying to say. Or they're like, I don't agree with the Vialor stuff that Anna said. That's way out of pocket and inappropriate, but I do agree that, like, the Fox Girl VTuber stuff.
Yeah, so Anna Valens here went into this Vialor situation out of her own volition. So she was basically making inquiries whether a trans person, whether a trans woman can become a member of like a strictly female kind of like a horny ASMR agency, and then the answer was obviously not. And if you can hear Anna's voice, you can sort of understand why the answer would be no. And this has really nothing to do about Anna being or not being a trans person. This has way more to do with the kind of quality and talent the agency would be looking for. I also would not pass. And Kirsche, for instance, by her own admission, would also not pass, even though Kirsche is a woman.
They have identified that, like, I think for both of them, they've identified that, like, for me, I am not gaining many friends if I just simply identify, like, entities that are, like, I think particularly doing something wrong.
Identify entities. Are we still talking about real life, or is this like a computer game or something?
Or bad or unethical or inappropriate in VTubing, and I just say it.
And so here is the thing. You might disagree with the political opinion of, for instance, Kirsche, but I feel like you can still reach a middle ground of that disagreement. For Anna, for instance, all of the absolutely nasty things she talked about in her fanfiction, either recordings or the writing she did, this is considered normal. To me personally, this is far removed from normal, and I think for a lot of people as well, and this is exactly the problem.
I think they identified, like, that is not going to make a lot of friends and not going to change things culturally in the space. So
okay, why are you're going into VTubing? It's a space with an established culture. Why do you think you need to change things culturally? Why is that the case?
Therefore, their priority is how can I change things culturally in the space?
But why? Why do you need to, again, why are you, and this is something that's a recurring theme in a lot of weeb spaces nowadays, is that we need to go in and we need to change the culture. But why? What is the benefit other than you forcibly invading a space that has a culture, has a fan base, and trying to forcibly curve your own space within that space as some kind of like imperialist invader? Why are you doing this?
That is their fundamental goal. And they've figured...
Okay, well, if that is the goal of both Nyara and Bint, they can F right off. They should not be going into a space where they clearly do not belong. And they have views that, I'm so sorry, but I don't think the majority of people in those spaces would really relate to.
The way that I can change things culturally in the space is by trying to appeal to people that are curious about lefty stuff or have liberal politics. Lol, that's fucking funny. But, oh fuck, dude. Okay, let me lock in one sec, real quick. High key.
Blocking sight. I got the spike. One enemy remaining. My ult's ready.
Fuck! No! This last round, dude! Oh, I'm gonna fucking snut!
Okay, I really hope that there's some more stuff going on.
Okay.
It's like a really long clip.
I think I'm so mad.
Oh wow, what was that?
4 first bloods and me and my gay Chungus life, dude.
Jesus
I'm
Christ.
fucking woke. woke and like a fag.
Match found.
I'm washed.
Did you just
washed.
use the? Did you seriously just use the F word? The FAG F word? Are we being serious here?
Okay. The thing is, like, Nyara and Bin have understood that there's like this audience that's like left of center or even centrist that they can pull to the lefty side. And they also have identified that if you speak out a little too hard against things that are seen as neutral parties or like apolitical VTubers or parties, that you're gonna not make a lot of friends and people are not gonna want to openly agree with you. And
Okay, but this is rather obvious, is it not? If you are making statements that are just like way out of pocket, which is basically your normal views, then yes, people are not going to agree with it.
so they identified, like, if I want to have a big base
Phrasing.
to change hearts and minds, I have to play the lefty V2. I have to play the VTuber diplomacy game. I have to be.
Okay, so you're basically revealing all of your cards. You're literally telling everyone what is that you're planning to do. You're planning to subvert. You're planning to pretend you're not the person who you are in order to build a base. And then what? And then you're just gonna randomly change your views, or you're just gonna play politician games, and you're gonna change your views slowly in order to convince people to change the culture.
Diplomatic about who I talk about. I have to be careful about who I talk about. I can't just say stuff out of pocket and just be like, fuck this, fuck that, fuck this. But I should be careful who I target.
Also, just a thing, and this is going to be a bit of a word of advice for Anna personally. You have every chance to just be yourself, and I mean be a normal person, like not talking about your fetishes every 25 seconds, but basically be a normal person. Play games, be a VTuber, be entertaining. I'm gonna be honest, you do have the potential to achieve all of this. You can just be a regular entertainment VTuber. You don't need to change the culture. You don't need to convince people to quote unquote lefty stuff. You don't need to do any of these things to actually be successful. You revealing your Machiavellian plan to convince people to your quote political position runs, and all of your absolutely wild history as a quote unquote journalist, all of this runs counter to you achieving a big following. I'm just gonna be honest, this is really how it looks like.
Who I put my sights on, because I don't want to end up driving people away. And my main goal is to convince people that are a little curious about our points of views but don't know if they fully agree. My goal is to.
I'm not really curious about your points of views, because both yours and Bint's and Nyara's points of views are absolutely extreme. And there is no sugarcoating, because, okay, so here's the thing. All three of you people don't really understand how a regular reasonable person thinks. And that is the first and the biggest mistake and the biggest obstacle in you trying to convince anyone. You're also not able to emphasize with a reasonable person because you're all so far gone. So I don't see how you might come up with a position that would appeal to people in the center, people who are only slightly left-leaning.
Get them on our side. And I think there's a lot of room for that in VTubing.
No. As I said at the beginning, if I had a choice, I would not be doing this. I would be talking about light novels and other weep stuff. VTubing is not about that. VTubing is about having fun. It's not about you trying to convince people to your political position.
But as Ravine said, there's also a lot of hunger for someone who is just a lefty. Someone who just sits there and says, like, fuck this. This is fucking dumb. Like, this is a ridiculous thing that's happening.
But why? Again, VTubing is about having fun.
VTubing. And I also think that the professionals in VTubing actually lean more left than people.
And this is what I said earlier about the VTuber community. No, the answer is they do not actually. I know some people try to bring this up. I've seen, I think, Kirsha also reacting to this clip. And she did say that they're leaning left. The only place where they are leaning left is in the kind of more English-oriented, more indie VTubing sphere. there is a lot of indie VTubers who are genuinely politically leaning left, but this is not the case for the really big name VTubers. They are either outright traditional in like an Asian sense, so they will be at least slightly right-leaning, or just being traditional. But in the majority of the cases, they really do not do politics and they don't care about politics, as they shouldn't.
Realize. I think they actually tend to lean more left, because the gaming and esports spaces tend to lean a little bit more left in the kind of like workplace culture.
I'm gonna have a separate video on this, but just to kind of point out, in the corporate culture, and there are multiple reasons for that, in the corporate culture, if you leave people in EA Sports alone, they would very quickly move right.
Then people realize. And in the same way, I think that's also true of VTubing. Like, I'm waiting for people to realize, like, oh, like, some of the people that work for these agencies, like, are, like, games journalists, where there's actually, like, a disconnect.
Oh my god, I really hope that's not the case. I really hope that people who work for VTuber agencies are absolutely not game journalists. Because that would be the absolute, the worst case scenario.
Well, and, like, between them and, like, you know, the core VTuber fan. Like, there actually is. In the same way that you could argue, like, me as a VTuber journalist is, like, disconnected from VTuber fans. Now, don't get me wrong. I've also identified that I have to be smart about what battles I pick, that I need to, like, ally myself with different kinds of people in VTuber.
Again, all you have to do is play games and be a fun person. You don't have to pick who you ally yourself with. This is not politics, this is fun.
YouTubing that I need to be diplomatic, and that, like, it's important for someone like myself to try to find ways to appeal to those that are in the middle space. Like, I know some people in Blue Sky really hate that about me. They think it's like makes me a sellout or someone that's trying to get popular. But it's really more that the space is like in a triage state. Like, it's a
triage state. Oh my god. I don't... Okay, if you want to go corporate, if you want to work for a big corpo, your language is absolutely top-notch. You're already there. Making allies, triage, diplomacy, yeah, absolutely. You're really there.
Actually really bad. The political issues in VTubing are such a rot that, like, emergent...
Again, political issues in VTubing, political issues in English-speaking, mostly indie VTubing, not in VTubing in general.
Decisions have to be made, and if you're not, like, actually paying attention to, like, the crazy ass shit that's happening in VTubing, then you're just gonna naturally assume someone like myself is, like, carrying water for FaZe Connect instead of, like, I don't know, trying to convince people in the FaZe community that are, like, left of center that actually, like, there is a pathway where you can say, like, I love Pipkin Pippa, but also, like, I think it's important that, like, someone is not racist.
Okay, how do you intend to resolve this when Pipkin Pippa is making either almost racist or actually racist remarks? So you say you're not racist, but you support, by your own definition, to be clear here, by your own definition, racism? How is this supposed to work?
Which, lo and behold, like, actually is happening. Like, there's a lot of people on Blue Sky who are like, I love Pippa, I also don't like racism.
On Blue Sky, do you know what Blue Sky is? Blue Sky is the place where all of the people who couldn't survive on X ran off to. Yes. So if you are looking for your representative opinion on Blue Sky, you are not getting a representative opinion. You are getting the echo chamber, yes man, everyone agrees with you opinion.
Like, no shit. Like, that's a non-insignificant part of her fandom these days. Anyway, I'm saying all this because I do agree that I think Bint and Nyara are their politics. Pretty sure Spike's mid.
Last player standing.
Okay, that's a lot of pausing. Is there more to it? Let me just see.
Wait.
Doesn't seem like I missed anything.
30 seconds.
I got lock in, sorry. I got lock in, sorry, Chad. Sorry, Chad. Oh. Like everywhere else, right wingers are louder, yeah. Hi, Piss Hospital, hello. Is Valorant going badly? It was going until that moment. Harmful. No, I think Nyara cleaned things up after the leaflet situation. I think it got through to her that like debating like a chud is like not a good look.
Okay, so you're not gonna debate someone because they're a chud. This is one of the bigger problems in online spaces nowadays, that people don't want to talk to each other because they don't want to, or are simply unable at this point very often to find common ground. And I think, and I've seen part of the debate with Leaflet, and I think the problem was that Leaflet is trying to be very factual, and she's actually, despite what she says, she's a really good debater. She's being very factual. She gives good examples. She has a really good use of abstractions and hypotheticals. And I think the biggest problem with Nyara is that Nyara's so deep down into her own ideology and like a very specific way of seeing the world that she cannot abstract the possibility. She cannot imagine a possibility where someone might disagree on like a fundamental issue and she will not see common ground on that fundamental issue. I'm going to give you an example. There is a very common thing being said in left-wing spaces, which is you cannot be racist to white people. And the main reason why I hate this phrase is because it creates like an uneven permission structure and a bias to be mean to a specific group of people. However you see white people, I don't really care. It doesn't really matter to me so much. What matters to me is just intentionally being unfair, because you're building around this entire like theoretical bias that does apply to some parts of the Western world. It does apply more specifically, I would say, to the US, is the case in the US, is not the case in the entire world, is not a thing that everyone would either agree with or would even be remotely true when you consider someone having knowledge and experience from outside in the world. So if you're building like this kind of weird permission structure and then you're absolutely refusing to meet halfway by saying, for instance, yes, you cannot be racist to white people, for instance, in Western culture or in the US, or because of historical reasons, it is thought that you cannot be racist towards white people. If you treat you cannot be racist, like there's no possibility of being racist towards white people as like an axiom, as this is like a baseline of your entire way of thinking, and you absolutely refuse to move from that baseline, you are not going to have any sort of agreement, any sort of conversation with anyone. And you can pretend as much as you like, you can avoid this topic in your videos or in your streams, it will eventually come up. And you will eventually say something very radical and people were like, what? No, I don't subscribe to this. And they will simply leave you.
But I don't think Nyara, like, I'm not saying this to throw shade on Nyara, I get along well with her, but I think Nyara is like, I think she is a little new to some of the political landscape in a way, like maybe like yours truly is like forging the fires of this shit, you know, like I've been doing this for a while.
I find it endlessly fascinating how a lot of journalists and wannabe journalists have this like very high opinion of themselves. I mean, so the thing is, like, Anna claims to be a journalist, but I looked at the stuff that she wrote. She claimed that the smear piece she wrote on Kirche Verstaal, was her second biggest piece in her entire career. Her first piece was a fetish piece about her sexuality. Believe it or not. This is the kind of journalistic integrity and standard we are talking about here. Like, maybe nowadays in journalism circles this is considered high journalism. But if I look historically at what kind of journalism was done in the past and how journalism was treated in general, this is a complete joke. And as I said before, Anna's experience is mostly in writing like gossip column stuff and writing gossips for like a magazine, from like a media outlet that does like quote unquote news, but it was mostly just like drama news. Yeah, that's not really journalism, to be honest. So like, if those are your two biggest pieces, and then you say like, yeah, I was forged in the fires. Well, most of the fires you start yourself, to be honest.
So I think like she doesn't always have. Oh, hello. That's 3. Do I get my ace? Please don't kill anyone. No, I wanted an ace. I'm gonna crash.
Let's see if there's more of this.
It's not bad. In the space, it's really important because like it's very useful at this time. There's like a lot of triaging that needs to occur.
Triage.
But yeah, I think Nyara though, I do think that she also I think if her analysis sometimes feels very like human rightsy, trying to appeal to everyone, I do think that like she is a little green still. I just think she's a little green, and I think her framework is trying to appeal to people.
Her framework is trying to appeal to people. Oh my god, you sound like a robot. You sound like a robot or like an HR person. Are you an actual VTuber, or are you just like an HR employee trying to moonlight as a VTuber? Your framework of trying to appeal to people, seriously.
That are not like looking, like she's trying to appeal to people that are curious about lefty stuff. But are not quite there yet. She's doing a little bit of a ContraPoint thing, is basically what I'm saying.
And I know ContraPoint, and I actually do enjoy her content, because what is, I think, good about ContraPoint is that it is being fair where necessary. And Nyara, unfortunately, is not fair where necessary. Nyara is absolutely consumed by her ideology.
So she's naturally going to rub some people the wrong way, and that's pretty normal in that space. Like that's a normal thing for her to have to deal with. I don't think she's bad. Like there's nothing wrong with what she's doing at all. I'm just pointing out though that I do think that there is just. Oh, I fucked it up so hard. There's.
Okay, so apparently this is the end of the clip. Yeah, so I said everything I wanted to say on this topic. Basically, in summary, I don't really think you can convince anything to anything, especially now that you've basically revealed all of your cards. You've revealed your entire plan. You also revealed your plan and the plan of Nyara and the plan of Bint. My suggestion, if you really want to go that route, which I honestly do not recommend, change your identity. Put on a voice changer or something, because don't mean to judge, but yeah, let's be honest here. Change your entire personality, change your VTuber model, change the way you talk. Maybe then you have a chance. If you're gonna keep on, if you like, everyone now knows what your actual intentions are. If you now go out of your way and you try to spread, propaganda and lie to people in order to get into their good graces, I'm sorry, this is not working. But yeah, that's basically for this video. It's been a little long, but I decided that it's important to address these points, and I think the more people talk about this, the better for the entirety of the VTubing community, because I don't want to have this kind of politics, this kind of like weird propaganda in the VTuber space. I want things to go back to normal. I want us to go back, enjoy games, enjoy anime, and enjoy all sorts of like, horny, degenerate stuff that we can all really, enjoy properly, and not worry about politics, worry about people encroaching these spaces, pushing their own ideas, pushing their own standards, and then what will eventually happen is demanding that their standards are being accepted by other people. That's absolutely deplorable. I don't want that. No one who is in this space and has been for longer wants this. And with that, I'd like to end the video, and I wish you all a great week. Matane!